Some of the best Zelda games ever made have been exclusive to handheld systems, so the prospect of a new multiplayer-friendly installment on the 3DS is very exciting. Triforce Heroes lets you and 2 other adventurers team up to take on challenges that require precise teamwork. And while it can be fun to overcome these trials, the experience pales in comparison to most other titles in the franchise. In Triforce Heroes, your goal is to save a princess from bad fashion. The daughter of the King of Hytopia has been cursed to wear a brown jumpsuit, and it's up to you to ensure she can go back out in public again without being embarrassed. If this seems like a weak setup for a Zelda game, it is. The scale of Triforce Heroes is uncharacteristically small for a Zelda game, from the number of NPCs you interact with to the size of the town you visit when you're not out playing the hero. There are 8 areas you have to conquer to complete your quest, and you can tackle the first 4 in any order. Within each area are 4 levels, and each level has 3 additional challenges that you can take on after you finish the level once. The areas each have zones you'll be familiar with if you've visited Hyrule before, but their overall structure is fairly routine. To get to the glowing Triforce at the end of each level, Red, Blue, and Green Link need to vanquish enemies, dodge hazards, use level-specific items, and pick each other up to reach higher platforms and targets. To communicate, there are a handful of emotes you can tap on the touchscreen if your partners aren't in the same room. Tapping on your partner's name will show you their location. There are also warning messages that scroll by, and while the updates can be useful, we wish they didn't take up so much of the screen. Stacking on top of each other to smack tall enemies or shoot out-of-reach switches can tax the brain at the beginning of the adventure, but the vertical puzzles get easier as you become familiar with who needs to grab who to reach higher plateaus. The game gets tricky when you have to manage items. Each Link can equip 1 item per level. Sometimes all 3 are the same, but often you'll have to rely on your friends to do their duties depending on whether they have a bow, a boomerang, or another familiar Zelda tool. Each area ends in a boss, which also relies on your expertise with using items and piling links on top of each other, but none of them are half as satisfying as our favorite Zelda boss battles. Once you figure out what to do, it feels like completing a series of steps instead of dueling with a dangerous monster. Bringing 3 friends along is the best way to play Triforce Heroes, but there are other options. There's a forgettable PvP mode for 2 players, and you can head out by yourself if you want to complete levels solo. When you're alone, you travel with 2 Link dummies called Doppels that you can swap between at any time. This method is almost good enough for completing each area, but some of the challenges are impossible unless you have a full team of real people. The game knows it too by offering the chance to skip certain encounters at the cost of a fairy that otherwise revives you after you run out of hearts. If your friends don't own the game, they can assist you via download play, but they won't carry their loot with them afterward. If you only have 1 friend willing to play, you're out of luck. There's no way you can interact with a single player cooperatively, which is unfortunate. It seems like 2 Links could easily manage 1 Doppel between them, but unless you have 2 partners, you have to head out alone. You can join other players online, but we had repeated connectivity issues and found it easier to play local co-op or just to deal with each area on our own. The most disappointing aspect of Triforce Heroes is a profound lack of motivation to finish the story and complete the extra challenges. When you finish a level, Link can collect a piece of material that's used to create outfits for Link to wear that aid him in his journey. If you want to unlock the entire wardrobe, you'll have to complete levels multiple times, or purchase these supplies from a vendor in town. But since the only thing to do with these outfits is go back into the same missions you've already played, albeit slightly easier, we didn't really feel compelled to repeat the process again and again. Some of the outfits are adorable, but that's not enough incentive. It's this triviality that tears away at the usual merriment we feel when we play a Zelda game. There is fun to be had, overcoming obstacles and besting giant creatures. The mechanics are solid, borrowing gameplay elements from A Link Between Worlds and a charming character art style from the Wind Waker series. But Triforce Heroes feels like a mode you'd unlock after completing a regular Zelda adventure, a demo that you'd download for free and try a couple of times before you realized how little there is to it. Even for a multiplayer spin-off, Triforce Heroes just doesn't offer enough to justify its price tag, and it absolutely shouldn't be played alone. If you're a stalwart fan with a pair of dedicated friends, you'll likely have a pleasant time with the game's puzzles and combat. But it's hard to recommend the game to anyone that hasn't already sought the Triforce for a much more admirable purpose.